I'm here with Rutu, who is a luxury property developer, and I'm really excited to get talking to you about your experience and just your journey on how you have come to where you are right now. And as you can see, the setting we're in is absolutely stunning, and this is one of Rutu's properties that she's developed called the Aria in Hadley Wood. Okay. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it.
Sure, let's do it.
So first question is, talk to us a little bit about you. Where are you from? What's your background? And what did you do before you were working in property, or have you always worked in property?
Okay, so I grew up in East Africa, in Tanzania, which is where my family is currently from. And I grew up in a very business-oriented environment. My father is a self-made man. He left school probably his early teenage years and always had an inkling for what he wanted out of life, and that was to be a businessman. And that's what was interesting to him. That was always exciting to him. So I grew up in that environment, and it was something that was always talked about, always discussed, and it became a way of life.
Awesome.
So that was my background. I obviously came to the UK to do my MBA, and always wanted to go back home and join the family business once again, but ended up finding love here, met my husband.
Awesome.
So personal journey kind of made the UK, I would say, a permanent setting.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt you there, but so you actually studied all the way through to your degree in East Africa?
No, I didn't. So I left home when I was 16.
Oh, wow, okay.
I studied in the US and in Australia.
Wow.
And then kind of graduated undergrad, went back to Tanzania and joined my family business, which I loved.
Wow. And what is the family business?
So we're quite diversified. My dad started in manufacturing.
Okay.
And then from then diversified into agriculture, financial services.
Wow.
Do a bit of property as well. And property is something that I always kind of enjoyed.
Okay.
Probably without even knowing it. I was maybe more inclined to understand. I enjoyed finance in general. So I enjoyed working with anything on the financial services. And property, I think as well, has a really big relationship with finance. Because at the end of the day, you've got to make it successful, and therefore you really have to get it round to the numbers.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that. I think without knowing that it could become more than that.
Okay.
So obviously after I got married, I started working at HSBC doing private equity. Fantastic on paper job, in the sense that it was for the Africa team, where I'm from.
Felt like home.
It should have felt like home. And to be honest, it didn't. And it was really funny because I realized that I wasn't happy. And I don't think I ever vocalized it. I just knew I wasn't happy. And my husband, at this similar time, was like, I've got this book. You've got to read it. You're going to love it. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
No way.
It just happens that I'm reading this book on my way, living in this rat race. And for me, it was a bit of an awakening call. And I said, you know what? I don't want to live my life. I cannot see myself being happy. I almost felt shackled and chained. And I just really wanted to do something else. I didn't know what it was. I just thought I was unhappy. But I think when you're in that place and you're looking for an opportunity, you will always find an opportunity.
Yeah.
And for me, that opportunity was a really rundown pub that was in the area that we lived in. I used to pass it every day on the way to the station. And it was so derelict, but the location was fabulous. It was pretty much, 1 minute walk to the high street.
Wow, okay.
So it had a big for sale sign, and everyone knew it was one of those pubs that had never moved. So contacted the owner. They said, yep, we have a pub for sale. We've got planning permission for it to become a 100-seat restaurant. But they had no parking, and therefore they couldn't shift the pub, and it was stuck. So when I started looking at the opportunity, it worked out really well to turn the pub into apartments.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, I was just not interested in my job anymore. And all of my attention and my mind was constantly on something else. I was very distracted by it.
It's like you found something that just kind of inspired you a little bit.
Yeah, it did. And I think it inspired me that it could become something.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I obviously explored it while keeping my day job. Once I got planning permission, it was kind of the perfect time, and I was very lucky, I think, and this is also very important, is to have the people around you, the loving network around you that is supportive of what you want to do. I think in life you'll always meet naysayers.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe you have to kind of just go out on your own and try and have the confidence to just take the leap.
Yeah.
But I was lucky that the people around me were much, if that's really what you want to do, go for it, we'll support you.
I was just about to ask you that question because, you're in HSBC, you're working in private equity, it's a very secure job. And
yes.
For most people, the even the thought of leaving something like that, leaving something of that level of security is terrifying. And then it's not just terrifying on the perspective of, okay, you might not have a consistent income and things like that, but also what others around you would say. Family, your closest friends.
Exactly.
So like, how was that for you? How was that experience?
It didn't even matter.
Really?
I think because I wasn't doing the job for money.
Yeah.
I think when you do something you love, money will follow.
Yeah.
And I think I've experienced that now. So it's really important to find what you're passionate about, what you can really enjoy waking up for every day, and something that follows you around in the sense that even when you're sleeping, it consumes you because you love it.
Yeah.
It's like when you love a person. Same kind of thing. So I think
it consumes you.
Yeah, it consumes you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think when you do something with so much passion that you're putting your effort in, you're putting in the time.
Yeah.
And those are some of the key elements to make anything successful.
Of course. You need to have a lot of time invested into it and a lot of persistence behind all the stuff that you want to make, or all the stuff that you want to come to fruition.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So you've spoken a little bit about your first project, the pub, and how you wanted to basically take that opportunity on to convert it into flats. Talk to us about a bit of your journey in property. So, you know, everyone around you was lucky enough, quite supportive about you leaving work and following this passion, this dream. Talk to us a bit about your journey with starting from the flats and kind of what's happened next, and what opportunities were attracted to you as a result of you taking that step forward as well. So
I started my company, called it Amara Property. Amara in a Hindi word means hour. I think property is something that's always shared by people.
Wow.
So it's kind of where the thinking behind it was. And I think what was the main reason for moving into the property industry was really doing a lot of research, finding out the area, finding out what's required in the area. Yeah. And I initially started with like a downsizer model. So being an aging population, a lot of these suburbs in northwest London have older generation people who find that their house is too big for them. Yeah. The kids have grown up, they've moved out, they want something smaller, but they don't want your typical first-time buyer apartment. Yeah. Because doesn't fit their needs. Yeah. So they want something that's bigger. They want potentially a closed kitchen. So they want a different criteria. They want to be able to entertain, yet they want to be able to have something they can lock up and go. Yeah. So that was a niche that I started in with. And then we looked at different areas like the family market, which we do a lot of now. But when I mean family, we go for the modern family living. We say today's family wants to live a modern lifestyle. They want a modern property that supports the lifestyle that they live. Yeah, of course. So we don't want, ideally is moving away from the traditional style of English building with a lot more rooms in a house than you need. We're having less rooms, more space. Got you. And I think it just makes sense because that's the way we would want to live. And so it's almost like putting in the things that you enjoy, and the people around you enjoy, and taking that as a basis of the design idea. I guess kind of like combining what you enjoy at home and how you bring family together at home is what you're providing to the people that might be buying your houses, flats, apartments. So it's not really just a house. At the end of the day, we're providing people with a place to make a home, and a home is where you fill it with the people that you love, where you fill it with the memories. So the house is just the initial part of it. And I think the first time I realized the satisfaction of it was when I'd finished my first apartment, and the couple was an elderly couple, and they were so sweet. And she just called me. So like, why don't you just come around for a coffee? It would be nice to catch up. In 6 months or so, they'd lived in. Yeah. And I went to their house and went for a coffee, and they'd made this apartment into this amazing home. It was exactly what they wanted at that time in their life. And I think the satisfaction that I felt sitting there just having this small cup of coffee was kind of what gave me a purpose to continue doing what I started doing. And the business kind of grew from there as we got more contacts led to more projects, and obviously as you do more, people kind of get to know your name, and we very much niched ourselves in these few areas that we do. So we don't do volume build, it's quality building, trying to find properties that will stand the test of time, and therefore we tend to do less. So we do a lower volume, higher quality kind of model. Awesome. And I guess that anyone that buys an Amara property is buying not just a house, but something that's had a lot of love taken into account in the process of making it, and something that's going to provide that kind of caring environment to grow up in, that family environment, that vibe where people feel welcome all the time.
So my next question is, what inspires you to continue going on with the property projects that you're working on, and what excites you about the area that you've niched yourself in, which is luxury property?
Well, I think it's really just our purpose. So we have a purpose that we want to, deliver, and that's to be a positive contributor to the society that we live in.
Okay.
So not only providing, beautiful property, beautiful homes for people, but also providing sustainable homes. I think that's something I personally believe a lot in. And the day to day, we all have to take our little steps to be more sustainable, more aware of our carbon footprint. So we always try and use sustainable initiatives of some kind in every single project that we do. So the purpose, I think, of being a contributor to society versus then a taker as well.
Yep.
And at the same time, now the team has grown, so we have almost like a family, an Amara family.
Nice.
And we all work together on every project. So I think it's the purpose really that keeps us going. On a personal note, I think the freedom of running your own business, for me, that's priceless. I have children, I have a family, I want to be with them. And I always, see other parents who have full-time jobs, they tend to struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult in today's day to try and live these two lives.
Yeah.
And I think the freedom of running my own business gives me the most chance of doing that.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. One of the things that you just said was about sustainability and, not being as much of a taker, but also giving back to the community and the environments that you are building in. Could you give us an example, and for the people listening as well, could you give an example of how you're using sustainability within your projects?
Yes, of course. We've just finished two beautiful 5-bedroom homes in Hadley Wood called Kingwood. And what we did there was we had solar panels on the roofs, and this normally what happens is when homes put solar panels on, they collect solar energy during the day and they sell that to the grid, normally to peanuts, for peanuts, pennies, for pennies. And they come home at night, put on their light switch, and they're buying full price electricity back from the grid. The saving therefore is whatever little difference that you have made.
Gotcha.
So it's not really sustainable. Yes, you are contributing a bit to the grid, but you're not living in a sustainable way.
Yep.
You're still consuming when you get home. So what we did was we partnered up with Tesla, and Tesla now make home batteries, which are absolutely fantastic. It's called a Powerwall. And the science behind it is so simple. It just collects the solar energy that you have collected in the day. It stores it instead of selling to the grid as you normally would. Stores the battery stores the power, and when you come home and whenever you use the energy, you use the energy that you have collected that day.
Wow.
So the only time that you probably have less energy, say, is maybe in the winter, or it's very cloudy, you may have a little bit less, and therefore you would get a little bit from the grid.
Wow, that's amazing.
So for example, at Fairgreen, on Fairgreen East at Kingwood, we pretty much ran the show house for a month, and our electricity bill was £6.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
So it's the idea being that we've done it during the building. It's a higher investment from our point of view. It's very expensive to put in, but it's got a long-term benefit for the life of the house, for the life of the family that lives there.
Wow, and obviously partnering with Tesla is a huge deal as well. It must be very exciting to be able to promote that as well to
definitely. And I think
the people buying.
I personally am a big fan of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it was nice to incorporate that.
That's awesome. No, I love that. That's excellent. Okay, so here's something that I think that everyone listening would be quite interested to hear your take on. A lot of people find property development quite challenging or potentially quite difficult to get into, and then I guess luxury property development is a whole new ballgame in itself. What's your thoughts on people's views on luxury property development being too difficult to get into, or something that they feel is not for them because of the barriers that they might experience?
Well, I think anything has a high barrier of entry. End of the day, it's not just property. With anything that you do, you really have to, find a niche, find a gap in the market, do your research behind that, almost make a business case for yourself.
Yep.
And if you can find that niche or that requirement in that market, then you already are on a great start. So finding the foot in the door, I think, is probably the hardest thing.
Okay.
And once you have, whether it's something new or you're riding a wave of something that's going on, whichever, that's probably the biggest research that someone says, find out what they want to do. Once they have that answer, then it's really just time to the time and effort that you put into it.
Yeah.
I think luxury property, I would say, is probably a bit more difficult, just in the sense that it's a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
There's fewer buyers at that end of the market versus, say, the first-time buyer level market, where there are more buyers, and therefore easier to sell if you make a little mistake here or there.
Yeah.
Whereas at the higher end, it's not as forgiving. So in that regard, I would say that luxury property is definitely a more difficult ball game, just because of the level of detail, the attention to detail that's required.
Fair enough.
Right.
So you just spoke about getting your foot in the door is probably the hardest part of the journey, because once you've managed to take that first step, I guess things will fall into place bit by bit, and you'll start gaining momentum as you start getting more experience.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice to people for how they could get their foot in the door for something like luxury property?
Yeah, I think, with property, again, it's just kind of finding that opportunity. So whether you find a house that needs maybe doing up, where the numbers could stack up, and you've done your market research and what's selling and how much the builder work could cost, again, that's an opportunity. I say foot in the door is really just an opportunity.
Yeah.
Now it's what you do with that opportunity. I think a lot of people think that a barrier to entry in property, maybe like a myth, you could say a myth in property, is that you need a lot of money to be in property.
Yeah.
And that's a big myth, I think.
Okay.
Because yes, you do need money, but it doesn't have to be your money.
True.
And you can be creative with the way that things are financed. I think a lot of deals are very creative. And end of the day, there's an accountability on you. If you're the one leading it, if you're having a JV partner, you need to deliver. And therefore, that pressure, I sometimes feel, is a very positive thing. My first project was done with the JV. I didn't put any of my money in.
Oh, wow.
So there are opportunities out there. There's so many techniques to use, option agreements and all sorts of things. And the first one, I think, will always be the hardest.
Yeah.
That's the one that you will make probably most mistakes because
a
you're
learning
learning. It's a learning curve. And it's really all about, I think, going through that journey. And when you do fail, it's really just a matter of getting up again. Failure is a very common occurrence, at least in my life.
It's definitely an opportunity to learn and move forward from as well. You just mentioned that, your first opportunity that you took on, you were fortunate enough to partner with someone who was able to invest and allow you to then get on with the project. That's obviously maybe a bit high risk for the person investing, knowing that it was your first one as well.
Yep.
How was that experience, and what made you comfortable in taking that risk as well, and how did the partner feel about it?
Yeah, so I think, for the opportunity that I'd found was quite good. So the way that I offset it was I took a smaller cut of the deal. I was more eager to just start.
That's so important.
End of the day, it was not about it wasn't the get rich quick scheme on this one deal.
100%,
it was a long-term vision, but let's start somewhere. So I was almost learning on someone else's dime.
Yeah.
And therefore giving away a lot of my control of profit or anything to do that. For me, that was fine.
Awesome.
So I think you have to then obviously talk to whoever it is you're with on a human level. Yeah. And find a way that works for both parties.
100%. I love what you just said as well. It's not about the whole get rich quick scheme, because there's so much out there at the moment that says, you can do this and within 3 months you'll have 20% return on your investment. And to be honest, a lot of it's not true. Yeah. And these things take time to build. They take time and effort and persistence to overcome all the challenges or the problems that you might experience during a property build. And I think, like you said, if you speak on a human level and just put out there right from the start that I'm new, but this is the numbers stack up, which is obviously very important, and this is what the investment's for, and you're willing to take a smaller cut because you don't have that experience yet, you don't have that track record, that could be huge for anyone new starting out. Yes. And taking their first step into something as well.
Exactly. So I think you just have to find that balance with whatever works. And if the purpose really is to start this journey and the beginning of the journey, then that should be the purpose.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, what was the biggest challenge for you when you started out?
I think just kind of being a nobody.
Okay.
Maybe it was a challenge and maybe it was an advantage. I don't know. People never saw me coming in that regard, but I think I had to learn a lot. And it took a lot of time. Okay. So I probably spent a lot of time outside of my day job, or even at my day job, researching and just talking to people. It's amazing how much you can learn by just talking to people in the field.
Yeah.
So talking to multiple agents, just going in and, kind of, or inviting someone for a coffee or anything, just to learn.
Yeah.
And I think we're so fortunate now that we live in an internet age. The information is at our fingertips. And so we need to balance that online information with the information that we're finding on the ground.
Yeah.
The real-time information almost. And trying to get a real feel of the market.
That's awesome. And I guess what you did there was not only do your own research online and get a level of understanding for yourself, but then go and compare it to perspectives of people doing the job, people working in the industry day in, day out, because ultimately that's going to be a realistic view of what's happening. And the stuff online, you can almost always put your own perception on it, which might give it a bit of a skewed perception that might not be right or might not be taking you where you want to end up.
It's always good to get different points of view, because then it allows you to make the decision that you feel, make your own decision about it.
Yeah.
So like, for example, with the first project, I spoke to about 3-4 agents, local agents, about pricing, how they measured pricing on finished homes, what kind of specification they required, how they kind of saw the market going, what had they sold recently. So much information comes from that.
Yeah.
And you're kind of able to put it together and almost say, oh, okay, based on what they've said, I can make an educated guess that this will work, this spec will work. They're not doing this, have they thought about that? How can we be different?
Yeah.
So it starts the seed, it plants the seed in your mind that can grow into something.
Definitely. And when you were talking to the agents, did you find that they were quite willing and open and wanting to help, or did you find that some were and some weren't?
Yeah, they were a mix. That's fine. Move on to the next one.
That's it.
Someone will help.
Yeah. If someone says no, you just move on to the next person, and then you'll find someone.
You can't take it personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll find someone that eventually
is
just happy to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think are roadblocks that aspiring developers should watch out for from your own experience? What do you think are certain challenges that everyone that wants to get into development should be very wary of?
Yeah, I think it's not easy. So the concept, a lot of people always say that, property, is the thing that's going to make you money, it's safe, it's all the things that you hear. I think the reality is that it's not an easy challenge. It's a long-term game, and it's not a quick get-quick-rich scheme like I said earlier. So it does require a lot of work. And that's as long as somebody's aware of that and they know what they're getting into, they will obviously get out what they put in. Yeah,
definitely. Okay. Could you talk to us about some of the failures that you've had in your journey? Some of the things that you've taken as maybe some of your most positive learning experiences as well?
Yeah, I think every experience is positive. With regards to failure, I've had so many. I can't even tell you. But it's part of it, right? I think when you're running your own business, you're going to fail. And I don't really look at it as failure. I never use that word. And I think maybe that's a positive mental state of mind.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, it's my challenge of the day.
Got you.
We'll just deal with it.
Fair enough.
And I think with that attitude, you just get on with it. You don't sit there and think, oh my God, I failed. But you have to reflect. I think the important is when something doesn't go your way, you must reflect as to why.
Okay.
Because there's no point repeating those mistakes again. So the mistake has served its purpose once you've learned from it or improved that system.
Yeah.
And you grow and become better at what you're doing, because those mistakes it's experience.
Yeah.
It's real time, live experience. It's very personal to you. That kind of makes you the person that you are. So it's your challenge of the day or the hour, however many you're making. But I think just being
challenge of the minute.
Yeah, just being very positive about it, and that's so important.
Yeah.
And some mistakes are big, some are small, but you can get up from every one of them.
Fair enough. Okay, so how do you manage to keep yourself in such a positive state? Like you said, you're a mum, you're a wife, you're running a full household whilst you're running this monster of a business at the same time. And there must be days where so many things come onto you and make you feel like, oh my God, I really can't deal with this anymore.
I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously that's natural. That happens to every single one of us. But you seem like someone who's able to rise above that quite easily now. How do you keep yourself in that positive state all the time?
I wouldn't say I'm positive all the time.
Okay.
I wish I was, that'd be great. But I think, what it is, I rely a lot on the people around me. So my husband, very loving, very supportive, best friend, talking to him all the time about things. My parents, my dad is my mentor. Speaking to him a lot, we're in constant communication. So I think just talking it out is almost therapeutic.
Yeah.
Because it's more for me than for them. I'm just getting it out.
It's your opportunity to vent,
it
right?
And I think as soon as you spelled it out with words, you can start thinking of a solution.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a process to go through. But yeah, I think it's a juggling act. Life is. I love being a mom. I love, my 2 kids, and I like that I have the freedom to be with them. So they do go to nursery, and they start nursery probably quite young.
Yeah.
But then what I started doing was I decided, look, put them in nursery for slightly longer periods. When they're in nursery, work like a dog.
Yeah.
When I pick them up, I live my second life, and I'm with them. And when I was doing them for less nursery sessions, I found that I was just not doing both jobs well. When I was with them, I was distracted, and when I wasn't with them, I was obviously just working like a dog. So it wasn't working. So I think we found a system.
Yeah.
And when I'm with them, I want to focus and be with them, and that just means working odd hours. But you work around it. Kids go to bed. Me and my husband work at night almost every night.
Yeah.
It's normal for us, but it's a great time to catch up.
Definitely.
And then weekends, we're about each other. So we try not to work on the weekends, and we do family time on the weekends. Monday to Friday, or Sunday to Thursday, depending on the week, is kind of like go time.
Okay, that's amazing, because it really is about finding that balance between.
Yes. It's got to work for you. It's life and
exactly, and you don't want to miss any part of your kids growing up. You don't want to miss that time with your husband. So it really is about finding that balance between.
Yeah, there's always times you think more. Mother's guilt is something that's always there, and you always feel you can do more. But it's finding something that works for the family as a whole, and you have to try your best.
Yeah.
And I think to be satisfied that you have once you've done that.
Definitely. And I love what you said about being able to talk it out with your close family, your partner, and it's like you said, it's not for them, it's for you.
Yes.
And I personally believe that when you talk about these things, it actually frees up that space in your mind.
Totally agree.
And that's when you can start thinking about potential solutions or new ideas to actually overcome all the things that are making you feel down, low, and like everything is not working.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think the listeners would love to hear about is, how does your business model work? Can you give us a high-level overview of what the Amara business is all about, how it functions, and how you make money from it, and how potential investors might make money from it as well?
So we're probably a full life cycle company in the sense that we not only find the properties into the feasibility, we do the whole planning as well. We construct ourselves. We now have our own construction company.
Wow.
So we only build our own homes, and therefore we have a great control on program, cost, quality, the important kind of factors. And then we obviously sell, or there's an exit package at the end.
Yeah.
So we do the full life cycle. I work with lots of investors on different kind of structures. A common structure now, which I think is worked because I have a lot more investors, is we'll do like an interest-based loan or a profit share structure, whereby the funding will be mixed. We'll have, let's say, a debt finance package. Investor will put in money, and at the end of the day, I try and do it by certain principles that the investors, they must get paid before I can get paid.
Okay.
End of the day, if they're happy, they will tell other people about it, and over time our business will grow. So we can swallow something, it's fine.
Sending around a lot of good karma as well.
I hope so. But so we obviously we're full life cycle of it, and the way that it works is normally by the time the investors get involved, we already have the planning permission, so the risk is lower in that regard. And they would come in at that point and support us during the construction, the build cycle phase, and then obviously at the end of the exit, they would get their returns back.
Awesome. And just for anyone listening who might be interested in potentially investing with you or wanting to find out more, what would they need to do? How would they go about doing something like that?
Simple, just get in touch.
Yeah, what's the website?
So it's www.amaraproperty.co.uk, or you can just email info@amaraproperty.co.uk.
Perfect. And on the video, you should be able to see that somewhere on the screen right now. And final question.
Yep.
If you could give 3 pieces of advice to your younger self, or anyone else maybe starting out in luxury property development or just normal property development, what would you say?
Okay, I would say don't rush. Take your time. Take deep breaths. It is a big jump, be aware of that. And therefore, my counter to that is do your research. And that offsets the risk element of just blindly jumping. So I think when I got excited, now when I look back, I probably should have done more. I could have done more. So we learn, we do that in the next one.
Yeah.
But I just think, just be aware of that. And I think you have to also reflect. That's very important. So as you beat good things, bad things, whatever, you have to reflect on them and kind of build it into your character so you can grow as a person.
Definitely.
Or grow within your business, and to make practice of doing that.
Definitely. I think reflecting on everything that went bad and finding out why, and making sure that, or doing everything possible to not repeat the same mistakes.
Yes.
And then at the same time, reflecting on the things that went really well.
Yes.
And also figuring out why and repeating those same steps.
Exactly. And therefore the formula gets better over time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, that's everything. I hope
thank you
guys,
very much. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. And
I did.
I hope that everyone listening has found some huge value from this. And I look forward to seeing what you create next. I'm sure if you guys keep on top of the Amara Property website.
Definitely.
You guys can
follow us on Instagram. We're quite active on there.
Yeah, we'll put up the Instagram link on the video somewhere as well. And you can keep in touch with what's going on and what's being built.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.